Hey y'all, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Petralka. This has been my favorite deck to play. It is not the strongest deck. This is not your Chronojet, this is not your Messiahs, your Avas, or your Youth Bergs. But I really enjoy playing Highlander in Premium, and so when I saw this get revealed for D, I knew I had to play it. So today I'll be showing off my almost max rarity list, just missing a few pieces. We'll get those over the summer. If you play this deck or you've been testing this or this kind of deck interests you, feel free to throw your texts and ideas in the comments below. There's more than one way to play this deck, and this is just my list. So, take everything with a grain of salt. Let's go ahead and get into it. So first, I would love to talk about the ride line. I play the pure Kyrie ride line just because I'm a big fan of Kyrie. You'll typically see the grade 2 here. And then you will see either like pure, or you might see the Michu ride line with the cannon engine in here, or you'll see the Willista all the way through and then just use rubies and sapphires to get card advantage. There's multiple ways to play this. As we get more lyrical cards, of course we're gonna have more ways, but for now I like this as I think the card economy is absolutely phenomenal. Your grade 1 is essentially a free ride. It's just going to call something back, and then your Kiora gets to bounce. So even into your retire heavy matchups, or maybe you want to play super aggressive, you can bounce stuff back to hand and use it later. Think Melties, anything with a very good on-play skill. For those who don't know what the Petralka does, she is a fusion between V-Series Reindeer and V-Series Riviere. Essentially, when she swings, you CB1, you look at the top 7. If all the cards not including herself are different, you can call a unit to rear and it gets plus 10k, or you rewrite her. And if you rewrite her, she also gets plus 10, and she always resets to 1 drive. This is not once per turn, so you have a very high ceiling for this deck. So think 7-8 attacks on a good day, 4 to 5 attacks on a normal day. So it's just very solid skill. So let's talk about the meat and potatoes. We're first going to start off with the grade 3s. Of course, we play 3 copies of Petralka. We want to keep these in the main deck because you need them for the rewrite off of the Vanguard skill. Because of that, the Chalice is a mandatory include. It is searchable in this deck by 2 cards, and in general it's your best piece to persona ride with. You'd rather find the Chalice than another Petralka. Typically in mulligans, I like to keep the Petralkas in the deck because we have Chalice and we can search it. Let's talk about counterchargers. So these are the 2 grade 3 counterchargers I play. Currently on your screen right now are all of the current lyrical counterchargers. I know it's not a lot, but if you find that you want to swap anything or you're curious, here's all the counterchargers. Back to the current list though, Ingrid is the best card currently that synergizes with Petralka. You can call her off the Vanguard skill. She'll be 28k. She'll restand that booster, so if you have Eileen or something very high value in the back, she'll restand that. And she also countercharges. Absolutely phenomenal. I've tried playing 2 of this, but because she bot decks herself, once your deck gets super thin and you do the top 7 check off the Vanguard, you'll often find duplicates of her, which does not feel good. So we're kind of forced to play 1, although she is technically the best unit that synergizes with Petralka, along with a couple others. We do have the LV here, which is the other countercharger. It's an on-hit countercharge similar to Fasado, but it also has this great first skill where all the other rear guards with different names cannot be chosen. This is great into single target retire, and of course Chronojet. They're forced to retire this. They're forced to bot deck this LV before they touch anything else, which is fine for you because if you call this off the Vanguard, you have now a 23, maybe a 33k grade 3 that has on-hit countercharge, which is a lot more threatening than just a 13k beat stick. So those are the grade 3 counterchargers. Here are a few one-ofs. They help, but also these are subject to change, of course, as we get new cards, better cards. We play the Minmi, I don't know how to say this. It bot decks and gives something 5k. This synergizes with another countercharger we play. We'll talk about it later in the list. Calfee, on place 10k. With the Vanguard, it's 30k. If you have the Persona ride and you're placing it off the Vanguard skill, it's 40k. This is a very good number, even without boosters. Milia is a nice 1-card combo that makes a 23k column. This is great if you have extra CB or your opponent likes swinging into your rear guards. And of course, We have Legia, which you bot decker and you draw a card for 1 CB. We don't really care that she gives the earns correct +5, we just care that she draws those cards. It's oddly enough, this deck doesn't have a hard time building hand. It just sometimes you look at the top 7 and it's not exactly what you need. It makes it hard to finish. So the extra hand is nice when you don't get the optimal. For the grade 2s, everyone's favorite Melty. I only play 1 Melty. There's also another card I'm currently not playing in this list, Tetsulia. You can play her too. You do not need 2 copies of Melty because in D series we don't have Q tier like Premium used to or V used to. The best ways to get your dupes out of deck are your hard mulligan, your draw, and of course this order we're going to talk about. Sweet Sweet. If you don't find any of those 3, most likely you will find your dupes off your Vanguard skill, which never feels good. So 1 Melty, typically we want to see our CB usage for the Vanguard and not for the rear guard, so it's totally okay. The Sweet Sweet does help us find combo pieces when we need it though, and it is also searchable. We play 1 Meredith. This is a top 7 on hit, out of order to hand. Very good. People don't like to let this hit though, which I find kind of funny. But when you do hit, sometimes you can find that Blitz Order PG, the Chalice. There's a lot of really good orders, even though this list only plays 4. So currently for the orders, you've seen the Chalice and you've seen the Sweet Sweet. I guess we'll talk about the 3rd order now. This is the Vibrant Symphonies, 30k, and because it's the order, it doesn't touch the guard circle. This is irrelevant into your Chrono Jets, your Flagbergs, your Nirvanas. I can't think of any other guard restricts off the top of my head, but there probably are more. And in general, it's 30k shield in a deck that's playing a few 5k draws because all of our triggers need to be different as well. So the Vibrant Symphony is just here for extra shield value, keeps you alive. It's never a bad hit. We play the Sylphia. This is a counter charger. If you bot deck a card, you can Soul Blast and she becomes 18k base. If you do hit, you get the counter charge and she bot decks herself and allows you to draw a card. So really good for card value. It's very unfortunate. She's 8k base, but it's okay. We have Faustina. Really good for early rushes. Gets +2 for every other unit on board. Not the best card, but when you're playing 1-ofs, you gotta try to find the best pieces that make numbers. She's one of the best pieces that make numbers. Alt J combos very well with our ride line, giving that grade 2 Vanguard +5 when she bounces, but also she gets 5 when Petralka calls her to board, so she's a 25k. She demands a 15k trigger. If you have Persona Ride, it's 35k, which is very high value for you. And of course, Eileen. This is the grade 2 version of that Kyrie TD grade 3 Calfee. Her only caveat is in exchange for the 5k shield, she has to be called off a grade 3 or greater Vanguard skill, so not as flexible as Calfee, but you do have 5k shield on this. I've said this many times before in my videos, I think that Lyrical has some of the best grade 1s, and we're going to start off with 3 Lyrical PGs. There's like 5 or 6 of them. You guys can play whichever ones you want to, just as long as you're playing a Lyrical PG. These are very, very important, of course, and you have to include Sanctitude. This is a rogue deck, so you're going to struggle against those meta decks, those Avas, those Chrono Jets, soon to be the Messiahs, but it is nice when you have a searchable PG, searchable 30k shield. It helps in those matchups, so if you do end up high rolling, you will come out on top sometimes. The Sanctitude is especially good in the Chrono Jet, and again, because it's searchable, which I can talk about now. It's searchable off of the Ura, so we have the Meredith in the grade 2s, and then we have the Ura in the grade 1, and together they can help us find our 4 orders. The faster you find those pieces, the quicker you can deck thin, which means you'll most likely find your Persona Rides, your re-rides, and your combo pieces. For the rest of the grade 1s, this is the only duplicate I play. This is the Ermeli. We used to play this in Melissa. I'm not going to read the skill. Essentially, you Soul Blast, retire this, and you put back non-grade 1s back into the deck. These have to be normal units, but more likely than not, you're putting back Petralka, so that way you can continuously refuel and you don't have to stop rewriting. You can just go for it, And so we played 2. I've played it at 1, I played it at 2, I've played it at 3. 3, you tend to brick the Vanguard skill and you find dupes off the top 7. 1, you struggle to find this when you need it. 2 is the right sweet spot, and then the Sweet Sweet helps us thin this out if we don't find it in the mulligan or off of drive checks or draw triggers. We play 1 Eureka, and we also play 1 Eileen. You do not need dupes of these cards. If you don't own Eureka, I understand. You can you probably want to swap this out for any of these cards on screen right now, or whatever your favorite lyrical card is, you can swap that in. But the Alien is definitely important here just because the triggers are really going to help you come out on top. This is a high roll deck, it's Highlander, everything's 1-ofs. So the Alien is very helpful for bot decking those Petralkas for later, keeping the triggers on top, that kind of stuff. This is Emmeline. This is the level 1 that the grade 3 searches. It's a 12k booster, so even if you don't find it off the grade 3, that's totally fine. We have Saya. It's a 3k base, but it can reset a whole column in the late game, especially from a Persona ride, and you call this off the Vanguard, it's going to be 23k. If you don't have the Persona ride, it's going to be 13. It makes some pretty good columns with some of your like 40k beat sticks that we talked about earlier, so it does have a purpose. And also has a niche use that if you find this in your starting hand, you could discard this first and get a cool rush turn, get a little bit of a dig. And for the final grade 1, we have Angelma. Kyrie players are playing this now because it draws you cards in the battle, which is very helpful for that deck and a couple other decks too. It's also very helpful here because you're constantly calling rear guards in the battle, so you can use that to your advantage. Soul Blast 2, which can empty out your Petralkas into the drop zone to put back later with your MLE, and then you can build bigger hands. Finally, the home stretch, we've made it to the triggers. So there are currently 7 crits for lyrical, and we play every single one of them. We actually just got the 8th lyrical crit confirmed in set 10, and of course you can get the Bang Dream ones too when those come out in English. You can tech those in as well, so you should be able to make it to 8 crit if you're feeling daring, but 7 crit is totally fine. This works well. We like the crits in this deck because you don't really get to play for very long, and you don't want these other really good decks to play for very long and stabilize, so you're trying to kill them as fast as possible. The 7 crit gets you to the home plate. We have heals. It doesn't matter which heals you play. I play 2 base and then 1 of each effect. We should be getting the encounter or the counter heal soon. It doesn't really matter, it just depends on what you're playing against. This is a fun deck for me. I'm not trying to win a regional or anything with this, so I have a little of everything. And then to round off the triggers, we have a few draw triggers. This is very helpful for building hand and digging for pieces. It also helps you get your dupes out. And then the 1 front and the 1 OT to round it off. Well guys, with that, that's the end of the video. This has been a really fun deck to play. Just the amount of ways you can build this has been really fun and has encouraged me to play a lot more Overdress as of recently. I think Overdress can get a little stale because after PGs and triggers and Persona rides, you really don't have that many flex spots in most decks. Most decks are pretty cookie cutter. So having a deck like this where literally changing the ride line changes a good portion of your deck, and the way it plays, the way it feels, the tempo is very refreshing. So I recommend this deck to anybody who just wants something a little out of the box, or if you really just enjoy Highlander. I'm gonna stop rambling though. With that guys, don't forget to take care of yourself. This is Gakura and TCG signing off.